And we're going to start off this arena battle by throwing Scott into the microphone because his microphone's not working. Welcome to another episode of Live here on Keystroke Medium. I am Josh Hayes here with Lauren Moore, Ralph Kern, Scott Moon, and Steve Bollier. It's season 3, episode 49, and we are talking about writing progress tonight. I apologize for being late. My 18-month-old did not want to go to sleep on time. Ooh, with the schedules and the little babies. Ridiculous. But thank you for bearing with me, and welcome to tonight's show, everybody that's in the live chat. I see that it's been going on like 75 minutes.
Skynet's attacking Josh, isn't it?
Hey, we lost you, Josh.
Oh, thank God for that.
I mean, your microphone's by your belly button, dude. Like, it's got yes. No.
Nope, you're completely gone. You pulled a moon. Can you hear me? Maybe I took this.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Welcome to season 3, episode 49, where we do this without Josh's microphone.
Josh is not going to be here.
There we go.
I really need to rework this whole setup I got because it's messing with me every week now. It's messing with me, so I don't know what the deal is.
You need to get back into your dungeon. That's what you need to do.
Well, it's not my dungeon anymore. It's a remodeled thing. Jamie's, it's got purple and silver and little sparklies, and it's all.
And who did that?
Well, I built it, but Jamie painted it. I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, but I got a 4K webcam this week. And does it look any different? Does it look cool?
It makes it look like you got a haircut.
I did get a haircut.
Yeah.
Jamie,
So that's
part of the package. You get a 4K webcam and a haircut.
And a free haircut, yes.
We can really see those dolls and their cubbies real well.
I know.
See now,
dolls now.
Who even invited her to be on the show? And where's JR causing this ruckus? I know it's all because of JR. He's not even here to appreciate the doll comment, but you can't see him really good.
We'll save it. We'll snap to him or something.
I want to go into what we've been into this week. I've got some props this week, so if somebody wants to go before me, I'm going to go get the props ready, and then.
What is this like a Weird Al show or
like a show and tell? It's almost like what's that guy that used to
Carrot
smash
Top?
Watermelons? No, not Carrot Top.
Carrot Top.
The guy that smashed watermelons with the big hammer.
I'm trying to remember his name.
Gallagher.
Gallagher.
Yeah. It's like Gallagher, except nothing like that, and you don't have to wear a plastic tarp. So somebody go first. I'm going to get props. Ready? Go.
Lauren.
Go, Lauren.
I'm in the middle of a lot of editing projects. I've got one that I've been working on for weeks, and it's so close to being done. And in the meanwhile, I've got more backed up. But I'll get to them. I'll get to them all. And then one day, I'll get to my own writing project. I promise it'll happen one day.
Know the feeling.
What about you, Steve? How are you doing these days?
Man, I feel like I'm in the same boat that Lauren's in. I'm on like editing projects nonstop. And, I feel like I'm cheating on myself because I can't write. I haven't had a really good writing day since like October 10th. I put about 2,000 words down today, so that was good. That felt good getting back into the world.
That's a nice chunk of progress.
Was that during the sprint?
What's that?
Was that during the sprint?
That was during the sprint, yeah. Between the sprint and another like 10 minutes later on. Thank you for that, Scott. Scott suggested some sprints today, and I don't usually do sprints. I just I don't know.
Let the muse come when the muse comes.
It had to happen, so it was a good thing it happened. Hey, Gallagher's back.
Gallagher is back. I said is our sprint instigator, but I always miss it. I'm usually at work, so I thought, well, it's my day off. I'll throw it out there to see who wants to play.
I love sprinting, but I always feel inadequate when I'm sprinting with like Devin or Nathan because like I'll sprint and I'll get I got 400 or 500 words, and Devin and Nathan are like we just got 3,567 words. I'm like, it's only been half an hour. How do you do that?
I don't know how Devin does it because he's got a baby cradled in one hand. About the worst picture was a baby cradled in one arm. And he's driving, and he's got his laptop down. It's like, the man's an ex-cop. How is that? You should know better.
Changing a diaper and writing a book while I'm driving. I don't think that thing's okay. What could go wrong?
I haven't.
Ex-cop.
That's right. I haven't mastered the changing diaper and writing at the same time. I can listen audiobooks and change diapers. Hopefully we're soon with that. Anyway, so I got props. You guys may or may not appreciate this stuff, so I'm gonna locked on me now. Okay, first prop is
a doll.
we got a new hat.
Nice.
Got a new hat. Yes.
Nice.
It's a flat hat.
Where's mine?
No, it's not. You can still bend it. That's just how it came in the package.
Okay, because I look kind of dumb.
Where's my hat?
Oh, they ran out at the store, Steve, when they made yours. So
They didn't have one big enough for my head.
just kidding.
For you and me.
It's in the box that's behind the. Okay, and here's the next one.
Ooh.
Very nice. This looks like something I go to Vegas.
It could be in the Vegas box.
Who did that logo? Man, that's a sweet looking logo.
I don't know, but that guy's pretty cool.
That's a sweet looking logo.
Then we got the new hoodie.
Ooh.
Yes.
A special requested by Kayleen, I believe.
No. The next one's this one is
hanging
actually
out in an alleyway and
I'm spoiling again. Look at that.
this yeah. Spoiler warning after. This one's actually for Craig Martell. Special request by Craig Martell. And then this is the special request by Kayleen. This is the zip up hoodie.
Ooh.
Yes, and it's got the logo. Nice. So yeah, I had a crap ton of shirts made in various sizes. Several of them are already spoken for. I've got a couple hats. A couple are already spoken for, but I think we have like 5 or 6 hats that are not spoken for. Several shirts, a couple of hoodies. They will be in the Vegas box, so we may or may not be doing giveaways at the Keystroke meetup. Just FYI, just a little incentive. So yeah, good times. That was my props. My great writing news today is
Josh, I have a quick prop.
Oh,
Okay,
hi,
he wants
Oliver.
to say hello. Hello, say hi, Oliver.
Hi, buddy.
And I have to go attend to a child duty for a moment. I'll be right back.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Sounds like fun.
Adulting.
Consistently, Christy says we need a tour of Josh's space and an explanation of all this stuff.
You just need to account for it all, Josh.
Accounting.
Why?
So we'll start over here, and this is the first edition. Well, actually, it's the second edition Keystroke hat. That's Lord Voldemort over there, although he lost his wand. That's a Darth Vader bubblegum dispenser. The American flag, actually, my daughter painted for me, and the 2 Blondie cups are from my last trip to Vegas. Then this is obviously our logo. Song of Ice and Fire, because they're kick-ass. And then my bobbleheads from Star Wars. Rogue One, because it's the only true good Star Wars movie that's come out after the Holy Trinity. And then all these are all indie books from indie authors that I know. And actually, this one is from a local Kansas author that I designed the cover for. That was my first professionally designed cover. And then my Audible poster. These are all of Richard Fox's Ember War books, and then the Legionnaire books, the first 4 paperbacks. Harry Potter on the second shelf. Arthas the Lich King, which is my that's my funnest World of Warcraft. Yes, Convo, the Manhattan. These are my 2 favorite liquor bottles, and vodka because I like vodka, but it's a Tommy gun. We might get censored from YouTube. It's a Tommy gun. And then the other one is I thought it was whiskey, but it actually turned out to be actually a Manhattan. It's got vermouth in it. Ugh, I don't like it. Over there's my Sanderson and Martin collection, along with my books. Of course, he comes back in when I. And then I've got that's my law enforcement graduation whatever certificate, commission certificate, and then some hardbacks and stuff. So, and I got cards for.
for Vegas. Hashtag Vegas, baby.
Hashtag Vegas. So, good times. That's my tour. I don't think there's anything else. But yeah, so my very cool information this year or this week from my writing life is that I finally finished Carson's arc in Terra Nova 3. After a whole month of working on it, I finally have it finished. So now I'm moving on to the edits and the rest of the arcs, and those are moving on.
Carson's one of my favorites in the Emberverse, so that's good you got that done. So now we can all get to book 3.
It actually turned into 2 rewrites because I rewrote and all the way and got mostly to the end, and I was like, but wouldn't it be cool if this happened? And then I went back and changed a couple more things, but it didn't take very long. But yeah, good times. So, and then Steve and I, or Jamie.
I'm Steve. Just go with Steve. It's just too weird, man. It's just too weird.
We worked out some changes to the short story that's going to go in the anthology, and so it makes it flow a little better and fits into the epic fantasy world that we have planned to write in, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. So
Georgie Martin.
That's right, Georgie.
He's gonna write a book blurb. That's what I heard.
If we could get Georgie to write a book blurb for us, that would be pretty legit. Like
but it'd take him 3 years. So
I feel like we could actually just put a Georgie book blurb that we write on our front cover, and he would never see it.
Oh yeah,
because it's not on a video game, so like he wouldn't be watching. You know.
I don't know. 10 years, I think that might be pushing it out a little bit. If I was a betting man.
Yeah. You're welcome consistently, and Corvo, you're welcome. Scott, what have you been up to, dude?
I don't know. I've kind of lost my train of thought with that. No, what I've been writing, I've been friends with Steve, Jamie Castle, and the rest of the guys.
I don't know why your mock kind of sounds like you're in a cave. Does it sound like Scott's in a cave to you guys?
Hold on.
I don't know. Whatever. Nope. Still sounds like you're in a cave.
All right. Well, I've been playing with my microphone.
That's better.
Been playing with my microphone?
Yeah, right
don't play with it, man. You had to work it.
Stop touching it.
Don't touch it.
Stop touching your microphone. Now you go blind. I finished some short stories. I've been working a lot on Galaxy's Edge, Port of the Centurion project, and a couple other things, and just basically doing that, getting through work. I submitted my application for the lieutenant's test at work, which I didn't want to do, but I did, and we'll see how that goes. So
nice.
That's like one hell of a shiny thing that's caught your eye there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, I should do that. But that means if I would get that means one, I have to make time to study for the test, and then if I got promoted at work, then I would have to go back to nights.
Wah,
covered by the FOP anymore for the future president of Lodge 5. What is it, 505?
No, just Lodge 5.
Lodge 5, President Josh Hayes, 2019. Right?
Possibly. We'll see how the vote goes.
I'll vote for you.
What about you, Ralph?
It's been a tough week at work, so not an incredible amount of writing.
Tell us about your at work. Tell us about your schedule at work. I find that fascinating.
Oh, it's been an absolutely bonkers one this week. So we have a training day. You call it mandatory training days, and you moan about them no end. I have faced it with stoicism, I might add. So I've done a 7-day week, which I've just finished like an hour ago, 2 hours ago. So yeah, it's been a weird one because we go up to nights very quickly on this set, and then I'll spend sort of a few days coming back down from nights to just late. So bottom line, that means you kind of have only sort of 10 hours between shifts, which sucks for the writing. But hey ho, it's my cross to bear. In terms of the writing, book 1 of The Great War went to my editor, working on the edits or my edits for book 2 and book 3 at the moment while I'm waiting for them. So that's making nice progress. Jamie, who I've long considered more my partner than just my inverted commas cover artist, has been tasked with designing a mech, which he's throwing himself into with massive amounts of gusto. For anyone who's worked with Jamie will know that he kind of he throws his heart and soul into them, and you get all these images and videos coming up, and you're like, I think that looks apart.
He definitely does not half-ass shit.
Yeah, absolutely. So there might be something cool to show you possibly next week, depends how quickly it works. But what else? Sort of another kind of work-related thing. I discovered through a friend of mine, my boss's boss. I don't know what the equivalent rank in with you guys would be, but it's kind of like the head of a whole geographical area. I happened to see that he was friends with someone else on Facebook, clearly outside of my immediate circle. But the profile picture was him dressed up like Jon Snow. I presume some kind of fancy dress or live action role play or something like that. So I was like, so a little geek out of that, and then immediately went and changed my LinkedIn profile from police to member of a Night's Watch. Got to capitalize on that, haven't you?
That's awesome.
So that's about it. Not too much exciting for me, unfortunately. But other than the Met thing, which obviously I'm raving, can't wait to show everyone.
I speaking of pictures, I went and got some author pictures done today, and there is nothing that says fat face better than having author pictures done. And then you look at it and you're like, holy crap, scrap all of those, and we're just going to use a filter from Instagram.
Did you know that?
Didn't you do the thing where you dressed in a leather jacket in black and white with sunglasses on, like in a field or something?
No.
I wear no shirt for that picture. I don't know why you didn't wear it.
I did wear this shirt. I wore this shirt.
Oh, you missed my
Oh.
I think that shirt's bonded to you like the symbiote.
I love this shirt.
I think it's just one half of the entity, which is Josh Hayes.
I'm not a huge fan of purple most of the time, but I love this shirt. I don't know what it is.
It's good.
So what do you guys say we jump into the project now, or the topic of tonight's show, which is writing process? And we've covered this several times before on different shows and covered it from various angles. I was thinking kind of the process of taking an idea through to like starting your first draft, or you have an idea because we're all writers and we all have that idea. Like Scott has 900 ideas in a single day, and then he wants to write all of them. But I was thinking like just your general process from if you have an idea that you're going to actually work on, and it's not just an idea you're going to write in your notebook of ideas and just keep it somewhere, but say this is an idea that you're going to pick and that you're going to work on for the next couple of months. How do you develop that idea into a novel? Like tools that you use or thought processes. Like for me, I'll write an idea down and it'll just percolate for a while until I'm ready to kind of pick it up. So like Edge of Valor that I'm working on, that's been like a 5-year project from like the initial idea, which was just a scene where a bunch of Marines got shot down in a dropship, and then I didn't know where they were at. I didn't know anything about the story, but everything came after. So a lot of people ask, where do you get your ideas and how do you turn your ideas into novels? So I thought maybe on a kind of a highly generalized topic, how we can tackle that, and then maybe we can dissect it a little better in different shows. Anybody want to go first?
I can crack on. I think I went second or third or fifth last time, or however many people we had. But so, like I said, it depends on when I get the ideas. A lot of times I have ideas that are old because I've had them for so long and haven't been able to write them and whatnot. But a lot of times I'll take an idea and I usually have to have a good character, kind of a premise, try to narrow it down into something short that I could tell, like an elevator pitch. And then I'll start an outline, but I'll write a 4-part synopsis. So for part 1 of the book, part 2 of the book, part 3 of the book, and part 4 of the book, and they all have different purposes. It's a 3-act structure, but the middle act is the middle 50%. And I'll kind of work out where my doors are, my points of no return. And then I will start making an outline, and then I will quickly get bored of doing the outline and then just start writing like crazy until I get stuck. So that's my initial process in a nutshell.
Scott sounds a whole lot like mine. So
See?
I don't outline at all. I'm a pantser 100%. I get an idea and I percolate on it for like 36 minutes. And then Scott says, does anyone want to do sprints? And I start writing a new book.
There you go.
So that's what this morning looked like for me. I bought Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm publishing a weird fantasy with Aethon Publishing. I'm sorry, Weird Western. And since I read the submission for that like 6 months ago, man, I've just been wanting to write a Western. Westerns don't sell for crap, but there's just like such an amazingly awesome thing about Westerns. And I think everyone loves them, but nobody really wants to do anything with them. Like 310 to Yuma came out. It was awesome, right? Like Longmire came out. What's the other one? Westworld. Like all these things, Red Dead Redemption. What's that?
There are a bunch.
Yeah, man.
There's a ton.
And they're big deals. They're great. They're great works. Even Cowboys versus Aliens or whatever that stupid movie was. Like, I loved it too. Like, because I think people love cowboys, and so it's just weird though that you can't really get anyone to buy into your cowboy idea because of whatever stigma. So anyway, I started writing it today. I have like 13 books that I'm currently writing, and we'll just see which ones of them stick. And so my process is like, I don't know, literally, I have 20,000 words, 30,000, 60,000 words on various books that I just jump back and forth between. And
it's like a crab basket of book ideas approach.
That's
Whichever one
right.
can claw its way to the top is the winner.
But we actually got.
That's probably no bad thing because there's a certain amount of Darwinism in your ideas there, like the fittest will survive, and maybe that's another way to view it, a way to view the positive in that kind of sort of more without sounding derogatory, scattershot sort of approach. Because at some point, I would suggest one will just grab you and won't let you go once you develop it to a certain point. I don't think there's anything too bad in that. Albeit there is a point where you've got to kind of grip one and you've got to say, right, that's the one I'm moving forward with. Or I would hope one would grip you.
Well, right now, book 4 of the Buried Goddess saga is kind of the one that is the book that has to be written and has to be published. And so that one is constantly moving along. As a matter of fact, we got Web of Eyes up for pre-order today. Nobody go pre-order it. We don't want your pre-orders. We want your day one purchases. We love you, though. It's just up there.
Have you read The War of Art? Steve?
Have I done what?
Have you read The War of Art?
No, I saw that on Josh's.
Listen to The War of Art.
Really?
Yeah. No, because I benefited from that a lot, too. It helps me.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Web of Eyes was a funny one. Like I got the idea for the name of it. I'm like, Web of Eyes, that's pretty cool. How do I make that a book? And now it's a trilogy. And so they all start in weird ways, man.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I feel because I also have the thumb drive with like at one point I started numbering them so they would kind of stay in some sort of order, and I'm up to like 401 on my folders. So. Anyway, so
what is it? War of Art.
War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. It's just
I'm snagging it right now.
It's like 2.5 hours long.
It's a nice audio book. It's easy to listen to, and really you only need to listen to about the first half of it. But there's actually like several books in the series. I've finished. The second book is Going Pro, and I listened to that one, and so on and so forth. But yeah, they're very good as far as what we do.
What's interesting about The Art of War is that now every time I start to do something that's not writing, I'm like, no, that's resistance. And I like punch myself in the face.
It talks about all the things. And the one that I found, and I'll stop hogging the mic, but one I found very interesting in book 2, the Going Pro, was the idea of a shadow career. And a shadow career is anything you do that seems like a legitimate thing. Like for me, it's real easy, like promoting for lieutenants, like, well, it would be a good thing to do. I'd be a responsible person at my job to apply and put all my energy into being a lieutenant. And so I can do all this, and it gives me thousands of excuses not to write. And they're all legitimate, solid excuses. But if my goal is to get the book written, then maybe I should just, keep it in perspective at least.
What's the author's name?
Stephen Pressfield. He writes some fiction too. What was the one? Lauren, help me out with his fiction books. Gates of Fire.
Spell the last name.
Pressfield.
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 Yeah. Yeah, but the art
it's
of
a
war.
It's a really good quick listen.
Art.
War of Art. The War of Art.
Break through your blocks, and when you're in a creative.
One of the things that I really like about it too is that it really kind of upholds what we do as being important. And as writers, especially as fiction writers, what a lot of us feel, this imposter syndrome type thing, and like, well, and even when you're successful, it's like, well, is this really important? I mean, if I don't eat food, I'll die, but if I don't read a novel, I guess I'll live. And so it doesn't seem like it's that important. But what this book really hits home is that it is important, and it may be the most important thing for us to tell stories and hear stories and share stories. And so it's very good for artists. Artists should all read it. And it's not long. It's easy to read.
I agree.
Yeah. Bye.
Stephen Pressfield.
Pressfield.
Which brings us to the show sponsor. Not really, but it was the only segue that I could come up with on short notice. This week's show sponsor is The Emissary by Terrence Malloy. Just released about a week and a half ago ish. The war for mankind's future will be fought now. Perfect for fans of hard-edged military sci-fi, alien invasion, and time travel thrillers. Arriving home after a harrowing tour of duty on an hostile alien world, USC Sergeant Matt Reeves has just learned the enemy, an insidious species of humanoid known as the Wraith, may be preparing an attack on Earth again. A widower with a 9-year-old daughter, Matt doesn't need any reminding of what's at stake. With much of Earth still in ruins and its military forces stretched beyond capacity fighting an interstellar war, there's no way mankind can survive another invasion. Teetering on the brink of defeat, the United Space Command is desperate to find some form of leverage. Enter the Emissary program. Matt learns the USC has been secretly experimenting with time travel to alter the outcome of the war, and they want him to be their next guinea pig, sending him back to Washington, D.C. 48 years before the invasion. His mission, help a small team of scientists locate a brilliant virologist whose work will hold the key to eradicating the Wraith from existence. Can Matt and his team successfully change the future and save mankind? Or will they learn the Wraith have already altered the past and won the war? In the thrilling sci-fi traditions of The Terminator, Aliens, and 12 Monkeys, The Emissary is an explosive first installment of the Earth Epsilon Wars. You can pick up your copy today on Amazon. I will post the link in the live chat, and of course, it'll be in the show notes for those of you not watching the show live. And if you're not watching the show live, as always, you are wrong. And correct that post-haste.
Right.
That is a really good blurb, I would say. That really captured me, that blurb there.
I wasn't completely sold until it said, or will they learn the Wraith have already altered the past and won the war?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, that's like a really nice twist.
There's a twisty twist there.
I have an idea for a future segment. You ready? This is great. You ready for this? All right. So we read blurbs that have the question, will this happen or will that happen? And we try to guess which one is true.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Right? And then call the author, so we gotta get him on the phone and be like, okay, so tell us which one is it, or we have Ralph read it. Ralph can read it for us.
I bet you we have a very high success rate in our guess. Like probably 99% we guess right.
Yeah.
I would say between us, probably we know about 90% of the.
Will the main character die?
Yeah, we just mentioned it. By the way, guys. The main character dies. Oh, and this is a spoiler, by the way.
By the way, none of that happens. This is strictly a panda fist fight from start to finish. There's literally none of that is in the book at all.
Ridiculous. So getting back to the topic of idea to beginning your novel, writing your novel. I know a lot of people like to handwrite notes. Steve and I, when we were kind of coming up with plot ideas for our fantasy series, I've got like 2 full legal notepads worth of notes that are completely unsorted, a complete like just smorgasbord of information that's not filed away in any logical form whatsoever. But then I also use notebooks and number them. And so then when I number the pages. And then when I go to outline, I can say in the outline, go to notebook page, whatever it is. And then I can go back and find it and do it after that. And I do a lot of my story outlining during mandatory training because most of that 10 hour is just sitting, listening to somebody talk. And I don't really want to hear what they have to say. And
did you just get fired? Did that just happen just now?
No.
Trust me.
Because there are people that bring like, some of the older guys will bring like newspapers. I don't even know where they get them, but they bring newspapers from like 1945 and then they open them up. Like they just open the whole thing. And they don't even bother to like look at the person that's talking. They just sit in the back with their paper and read.
There's several of us that have been around long enough. We're on the 3-day plan, and the 3-day plan is basically if they piss me off for 3 days in a row, I'm going to quit. I'm not quite there, but I know
some people even bring iPads and like Bluetooth headphones and they like tilt them just a little bit so they can watch, and then they've got earbuds in and they're literally watching Netflix for 10 hours while they're in training.
I can't do it. I feel too bad because I feel bad for the presenter because they're suffering up there.
I love the idea.
Netflix, no.
I don't feel bad because
anyone got any questions? Yeah,
no
power for my iPad.
What's great about the new training facility is the desks have plugins on the desks, so we can just plug right in. The cool thing about it is everybody thinks that I'm taking notes about what's being said.
Nobody thinks that, Josh.
No, they do. I've had a couple people come up and like, dude, you don't have to take notes, right? And I'm like, I'm not taking notes. It's all good. I'm good. Corvo asks, should I back up my writing in lots of clouds or hard drives, or less is better? I say don't back it up at all. I mean, really live on the edge.
Everything I've ever lost when I rewrote it better anyway, right?
We get all pissed. There was somebody I read a book with. I think it was, what's the guy who wrote the Sword of Shannara?
Terry Brooks.
Terry Brooks. I thought I read an article of his that he doesn't write ideas down that he gets in the middle of the night because if it doesn't survive, in his opinion, if it doesn't survive until morning, it wasn't worth writing down.
Oh, that's a horrible idea because I've had fantastic ideas at night.
I know, but I just throwing it out there that somebody said that, so it could be true.
Josh, you told me. Sorry, Lauren, go ahead.
You can always write it down and then in the morning check it.
Check your inspiration stuff.
Josh, when you told me last week that you had, in your words, about 1,000 pages of notes on Season of Bones. I didn't say anything because like we were on a roll in our conversation, but like that's the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life. Like that's a book worth in itself.
We have a friend who has a 50,000 word outline for a science fiction book.
One of my previous co-authors, Aaron Hall, had a 35,000 word outline for like an 85,000 word book, and I'm like, holy crap. I get 350 words, and I'm like, I'm really done with this outline. Where's chapter 1 start?
My problem with that is, and Stephen King talks about this in his On Writing book, is that when you get an idea, and I think there's some truth to this, and I think it's one of the reasons people that are doing this rapid releases and writing so fast have success, is in his book, he says, if you don't get that book written in 90 days, it's going to die. And myself, that's true. If I don't get, I will lose interest after. And for me, it's a lot less. It's usually like you said, 36 hours. But you got to move on it. You can't sit there in Germany. For most cases, obviously different for everyone. But I think there is some truth to that.
So yeah, and I agree. And I was trying to find my notes, and then I realized they're upstairs in a backpack. But I like Stephen King's idea about getting it out in 90 days, or it just goes away. But I think the heart of that is. Yeah, but getting it doesn't have to be the writing. It could just be the idea, right? And like, so, and in Steven's case, and this also probably goes for Steve/Jamie too, is that since Stephen King is pantsing, if he doesn't get it out in 90 days, the idea will go away, right?
So we've
Because
all read. Sorry, we've all read on writing, right?
Yeah.
Or most of it. So like he says, I write for 90 days. I write the book for 90 days. He pantses it for 90 days. Right. And that's his first draft. And he says, my first draft is for me. The second draft is for everybody else. So he pantses it for 90 days. Yeah. And then he puts it aside and starts his next project. And then he comes back to it and writes his second draft, which I think is brilliant, because by that time you're like, you realize all the stupid stuff that you've written and you want to come back and fix it.
And it's basically a really detailed outline, kind of.
So, well, and so like when I do mine, like for instance, Edge of Valor, I said I've been working on it for 5 years. But I was able to get the bulk of that idea down in probably like 10 days. Right. And then over the 5 years that I've been working on it has been detail there, detail here, working out character arcs and all that other stuff. So like I got it down, but just kind of making the whole thing complete is obviously taking a little while.
Well, but then also you got a publishing contract with that, so it gives you some motivation. But I don't say it happens every time, but I think it is a very real danger if you let something sit for long enough, especially as a creative artist. You're going to move on, and then you go back to it, and it's like I have a third book in a series that I have a third written. And it was on a rapid release schedule, and now it's been 14 months since I started it, and I can't even believe where that time went, because I got on other projects, and there were projects I needed to do, obviously, but with the collabs. But you know, there's nothing I want to do less than finish that book, and I loved it when I started it.
I completely agree. My fourth second star book, which I haven't written any second star in probably 2.5 years. I really don't have any ambition to finish it, other than I want to finish the series and say that I didn't leave the series incomplete. But yeah, I can definitely feel the push to not do it because it's been longer than, you know.
Yeah, just the magic starts. The shine wears off the apple at that point, and then it becomes a job. And that maybe that's a difference when you. A lot of different people talk about going pro and how basically it's like. You know, in Stephen Press's book, keep going back to him. In the Going Pro book, he says he has a list of things a pro does, and one of them is a pro shows up to work every day, and you could be like, and that could go to like any job, right? So if you're a janitor, you show up to work every day, and you stay on the job all day.
Yep.
And there's all these things like that. Well, as writers, we somehow think we don't have to do that. Well, I don't have to write every day, and I'm not feeling now, so I'm going to quit after 20 minutes. Well, that's not what a pro does. A pro writes the pro puts in the work for the full workday, whether that workday is 2 hours or 4 hours or 8 hours. Do it all. That's kind of mean.
I think you always got the question.
I would agree with that 100%, Scott, and also whilst I do believe very much that we have an obligation to. All right, so if you open up a series, you've got an obligation to finish it to some degree or other. But if my original vision for a series was 10 books long, for argument's sake, and the business side is not showing that I've got sufficient sales to really warrant the amount of time to cover 10 books, let's pretend I'm like 2 books in, and what's more, sort of my creative drive has gone elsewhere, then I think, look for an opportunity to close off that series. So you're being ethical to your readers and your fans. You're not leaving them dangling, but then perhaps move on to something else. Sometimes you just got to sort of cut a series off or cut an idea off at some point somewhere.
So what's that point? Because I think I remember, I think the last show we did, we were talking about, I think it was David Estes, if I'm not mistaken. David, he wrote Fate Marked and released it, and I'm gonna get all these numbers messed up, and forgive me for it, but like 8 months went by, and it did nothing, and then all of a sudden it found its readership, and now he's got 10 books going. And so I always wonder, like, what happens when, especially in fantasy, I find that like people can release books and it won't find its readership for like a year. Is anybody quitting too early, in your opinions?
Oh, absolutely. People are quitting too early. But you've got to make that value-based decision, haven't you? Ultimately, we are artists. That is absolutely true. But also, we are business people as well, especially as indies. So, yeah, any series, every series that I've embarked on, I've been absolutely passionate about. But there might be somewhere you see that there's you've closed one off ethically. That story has come to a close. You've got the opportunity to maybe stretch it out for a little bit longer, or do you move on to something else? Now, in relation to your question, Steve, I don't know. You've got to be taking your drivers from your reviews, how you're received, and also maybe build into a little bit of flexibility into your schedule. If all of a sudden, 8 months down the line, your series picks up massively, then maybe you've got to factor that back into the business side of your creative brain, and you've got to start looking at revisiting that series.
Well, and I think too, like you said, that you start off on a 10-book series and then it doesn't sell, and then you've got to backtrack and create a shorter series to tie it off. I think if you look at some indie authors, but even some traditional authors, they have these 3 cool things in mind, and they think I could make a book on each one of those cool things. And so they spread them out over those novels, and instead of cramming them into the first one and making one great book instead of 3 mediocre books. But then they take and they're like, oh, I've got this great 10-book series, but it really could be done in 4 or 5. And so when you get to book 3 and nothing has happened yet, because you're not halfway through the series, and you have all these, but wait until later moments where you're telling the reader it gets better later. No, you need to make it. You need to make it readable.
I think that's the big thing. Like when I was sort of in the dawn of my writing career, you go to a lot of forums and you kind of sort of talking to your peers at that point, and quite often they will put up various crits, whether it's the opening of their story or even in some cases the whole book, and you'd read it and you'd be like, that's I've got some issues with that, and it's not grabbing me for whatever reason. Invariably, the sort of the newer guys would turn around and they'll go, but it'll become great. I've got all these great ideas, and they'll even tell you, and you'll be like, that's wonderful. But you're not holding my attention to get to those great ideas. You've got to keep me going.
They want you to sign a non-disclosure agreement before they tell you about their story idea.
Yeah. You'd find that I've got a brilliant idea, and I'll send it to you, but can you sign this?
Well, it's just like consistently, Christy says, I try to plan every book to be awesome, which is exactly what you should do with
it. Always go awesome.
And so that actually is a really, really good segue back to the topic of the show, which is idea to the beginning of your book. If you take the time to branch those ideas out and say, this idea is cool, but how can I make that into a novel? And then as you're planning, you think of something else. Well, that's a good idea. I'll put that in another book. But if you have another idea that's really cool that you like, can you work that into the idea that you've already had and combine those 2 ideas into one book?
If I may, can I take that one?
Yeah, absolutely, go for it.
Yeah. So, like my trilogy, the one that I've done best with. So, like the idea. Very quickly sum up the genesis of the idea. We went on a cruise through the Caribbean. It was an amazing experience. Now I don't know whether you've been on a cruise ship, but you're kind of there, and you think you've got no Wi-Fi, you've got no phone connection out, and you're like, what if the whole of the rest of the world disappears? Now that was enough to start me off on a story idea. So next thing I know, me and the other half were down in the bar, and I mentioned this to her, and we start spitballing this whole story as it happened. The original kind of incantation version was sort of like a murder mystery kind of sort of scene, like a bottle sort of series on that. But then it rapidly grew into something more as all kinds of new elements came in. So that's sort of how the genesis of the idea came. But obviously, as I sort of started seeing that had serious potential, I was like, okay, I've got to start now getting these cool ideas and these cool things that I'm thinking don't quite have a place in book one, but I've got to start laying the groundwork here in book one to really give them a satisfying conclusion over book two and book three and beyond if I chose it. So the way I designed the series was book one, I could put that out there and it will provide a satisfactory experience in of itself. Stage where I'm at, I've got 3 books in. So book one, satisfactory experience. Actually, it sold really well, so therefore I chose to take it forward to book 2, book 3. Now I'm at book 3. Again, it sold really well, and the business side of me said, you've got the kind of you've got the go ahead to go forward with this. The creative side of me said, yeah, I've got some good ideas for the next ones. So yeah. But the kind of issue is all my kind of clawbacks from like book 2 and 3 are all all that kind of stuff is done now, sort of like all the intricate plot twists and all that kind of thing. So I've got to kind of build in new stuff and maybe kind of retcon it back into the original one. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. So there's quite a lot of intrigue and stuff like that. I've kind of got to feed that back into the original ones as well as taking it forward. So yeah, that's kind of a summary from genesis of an idea to book 3 where we're at the moment and possibly beyond.
That was a really powerful idea, and you pretty much kind of knew right from the get-go this is the idea. But what about when you have an idea? Does anybody want to talk about like vetting? How do you know when to go for it? Like if you have 5 ideas, how do you know which one's got the legs to move, or do you just try it out? Because I do like Steve. I'll just try it out. Okay.
I'll let Steve go first. He raised his hand.
No, it's you did too. Go for it, man.
So I had this great idea before I had the idea for Season of Bones. I had an idea for another fantasy story that was set on Earth, but say like 1,000 years in the future. And the idea for this story, the singular thought or scene that I had in my head was that this group of people was trapped landlocked in some continent. I don't know where it is, whether it's the United States or Africa or Europe or whatever. And they were surrounded by this huge force field that stretched up hundreds of feet into the sky. You could see it, you couldn't touch it, you couldn't pass through it, and they're just trapped there. But it's big enough so that it's like, it's just say it's like half the size of America that is trapped inside this field, and that it's very post-apocalyptic, but also kind of a sort of a Shannara feel, right? Where it's like way far future. But the magic system would have been basically nanites. And that the concept was that there was a world war and obviously everybody killed each other, but these nanites still survive in the blood, and they manifest different ways, and that different powers would have like a different glow when the nanites were being used.
You need to have a kind of non-disclosure agreement before you continue with your idea.
Right.
No, go ahead.
But no,
I'm taking notes. I have a full notebook already.
Yeah. So when they use their power, like so somebody has like a healing power or has somehow unlocked the healing power of these nanites, they would glow like green. So when they're using the power, you see this green glow around their fingertips or whatever. So everybody just thinks it's magic, right? And the reader reading will just read that it's magic. But in reality, they're nanites, and you're in the far future. And then, you know, you've got some weaponized nanites and whatever else. And then the whole theme would be these people think that they're trapped and that the outside world is evil. And the first book would be them breaking down this wall, force field.
Trump build the wall.
Trump did build it,
Okay,
and when they broke down the wall, basically they start this war because the wall was actually protect the rest of the world against them, because they were the ones that started the war. But after 1,000 years, you know, you lose all that information. Yeah, exactly. They were in jail. So
twist.
Exactly. So like that idea like hit me, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. But then there's all these like things that are like negative, like how does the weather work, and would it restrict like airflow, and how would birds, like how would that affect migration patterns and weather patterns and all that. And so it kind of like went away, and then I got the idea for Season of Bones, which is what I'm working on with Steve. But then I thought today, even as I'm driving around, I'm like, that might be like a really cool YA book, because in YA book you don't really have to have all that other, like, nobody, the kids don't
talk
consideration.
about
kids don't care about the weather patterns, right? So
I
like,
don't even agree though that fantasy readers don't care about that. You're thinking of it from a sci-fi point of view. Fantasy readers would never go like, where are all the birds going? And is controlling them. Like, we don't care.
The nice thing is if it really takes off, then you can let all the fans do the work. You know, there'll be whole forums full of like people who deconstruct all of that stuff and like figure it all out for you, and all you have to do is
there's those 10 guys with pocket protectors in a room going, "Ow, but the weather patterns when the magnetic fields would screw up the migratory patterns of the birds, and then you wouldn't be possible."
Hold on. If this happens. Right. Does anyone else have any good ideas?
The question was how do you take it? How do you vet an idea? So you decided not to go forward with that idea, but it's kind of, you got some resistance from your monkey brain. Said, "No, this."
Right. No, I did.
Going to mess it up. But the idea is still out there.
Right. It's still out there, and it's still like I've gotten written down in my notes, but
1,000 pages. Notes.
Well, no, it's not to that point yet. The way my ideas work is I've got like an iPhone, right? So I've got the Note app, and so I've got probably 500 notes in that app. And it's a good thing it's cloud-based, Corvo. Going back to your problem, cloud-based, Dropbox, go with that. Or the cloud through Mac. But so I have all those ideas, and most of those folder ideas just have like little like 2 or 3 sentences of ideas like this. But then when I choose to work on one and I pick it, then I just sit down and take it to flush it out. Yeah.
So what Steve had
yeah, I want to know what Steve.
Well, I mean, let's actually go to Season of Bones for a second. When you were talking about this, I was hoping you were going to say, but some of this kind of turned into Season of Bones, because like some of the stuff we've talked about were like different colors for different powers and yada yada yada. And so like I was hoping that you weren't just that boring, that you've had that idea so many times, but it's actually translated into a new idea. I think that one of the things that we as indie writers tend to forget, and what you'll deal with traditional editors and traditional publishers is they'll get your 70,000 word book, and they'll go, this isn't enough words. And those authors are then forced to come up with a subplot. And as writers, a lot of times we ignore the subplots, and we forget that, like, okay, I've had a few ideas. How do I make one of those ideas a subplot? Because if you read any good traditionally written book, you've got the main storyline, and then you've always got various subplots that weave in and out of it. And it's a challenge to keep those things in check with one another, and to not let the subplot take over the main plot of the book, and all of those wonderful things. And also, let me say this: I do get that new pub is a thing where we're like, we want to write fast books, and they're 60,000 word books, and they're not filled with subplots. And I get that there's a readership for that. But if we're talking about how do we write the most quality book, like Ralph was talking about, like we want to write quality books that capture the reader, and want them to continue reading the series, well, the way to do that is to create the depth of character. And so you don't throw out your ideas, write them down, put them in your folders, and inevitably you're going to find the book that you're writing where you go, okay, I don't know what the subplot of this book is. And you can go back into your notes and you can read 500 things. And one of those that has nothing to do with your epic fantasy or your space marine sci-fi, one of those storylines is going to pop into your mind. You're going to go, oh, this could easily happen to such and such a character.
Mm-hmm.
And it will develop who he is or who she is. It'll move the plot forward. Maybe it'll only move the plot forward for book 2 or 3, but still you're progressing your series in a very deep way that often gets ignored in the rapid writing, rapid release, get it out there as quick as we can. And I always feel like I'm making fun of that writing style. I'm really not. But what books do we all cling to in life? We cling to the books like Harry Potter and like the Song of Ice and Fire and all of these books that are so deep in subplots throughout a whole series. And so as writers, don't we want that particular emotion to take over our readers? I know I do. Very much so with everything I write. I want to make sure that my characters are real characters. And so I'll go back into all of my ideas and go, well, this didn't become a book, but this could be a subplot of the story that I'm currently writing.
So I've got 2 thoughts on that. One is that your subplot should be equally as important as your main plot to the story. And like you mentioned with the trad pub going, oh, you need more words here, throw in a subplot. I think a lot of writers do that naturally just to get the word count.
The soggy middle, so
and
they're throwing some subplots.
Right. And they're not as sold on the subplot that they are on the main plot. They're just like, we have to do this because reasons.
Okay, but you read a lot of traditional books, correct?
Yeah.
So, I mean, how many times does that, and maybe I'm wrong, but how many times does that really happen? Like, I'm at 130 books or something like that for this year. And the traditional ones, the subplots feel very natural because the editor's going nuts on them, right? And they're going to go, this doesn't feel like you really had a whole lot of passion. But when we farm out our books to editors that are just looking for copy issues, we end up with subpar books because as editors, I know I've faced it before where I don't want to tell somebody their book is crap because I know they've got 4 more books that I could be making money editing. And if I say, hey, your book's not really that good, they're going to go, well, maybe you shouldn't be editing my book. But the reality is if a traditional publisher tells you your book is not good, here's what you need to do to fix it, you don't have a choice. You're going to fix that book.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's and that goes to talk to a true developmental editor because they go through those 3 different, those 3 or 4 different types of editors. But a true developmental editor will go in and say, will help you build the story, not so much worry about how you phrase the words and how you deliver it. But I think that's tricky because they can say this needs more. You need a better subplot. This subplot needs to be more meaningful. These characters need to have more at stake, or so on and so forth. And I almost think they should have a different name than development, or they should call it like a story coach or something.
Well, Devin is a good word for it.
The other thought I had was when we mentioned the rapid release schedule, and we mentioned it kind of ties back to what we were talking about earlier about the 10 books planned in a series and then moving forward, is that this rapid release schedule that does work. We've seen it work, right? In New Pub and Indie Pub, we've seen this every 30 days, every 60 days model where people are pumping out novels, and it does work.
The 30-day clip is real.
Right. But it doesn't work all the time. And if you've taken a great series that could be a great trilogy and expanded that into 10 books, and now you're like, I'm going to do a 10-book rapid release. Every 30 days, I'm going to release these novels for 10 months. But the 10 books as a whole are not good. That rapid release is not going to work. It's going to fail. Yeah. And then
it's not enough.
Right. And then you have just not wasted because you're practicing, but you've committed yourself to 10 months of work or a year of work or more to do this rapid release schedule.
It wouldn't be 10 months, would it? I mean, I would challenge anyone to do keep up that kind of momentum. But yeah, I take your point.
Yeah, I mean, you've committed yourself to write these
you'd
books.
You'd do a hell of a lot of pre-writing, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, a lot of the rapid release books are shorter books.
I'm really curious to know Lauren's thought on this, the idea to writing. And Lauren, you just finished the first draft on your first novel, so I'm really curious to get your thoughts on it.
Well, I'm actually working on 2 novels. One I'm working on by myself, and one I'm working on with a co-writer. And in both books, I get a pretty good detailed outline out. But actually, the one where I'm working on by myself, it's funny. You love those characters so much, and you invest so much time into them. But like the main ones, for some reason, I have trouble figuring out who they are. I spend a lot of time developing my characters. I cast them from different actors and actresses. I write up personality charts for them. I think through who they are a lot. But for some reason, my main characters were kind of remaining elusive. So put those ideas, got them into an outline, and then for each scene when I was writing it out, I'd have to kind of get in the zone and figure out what was happening in that scene. It was sort of like being in a dreamlike state a little bit. Yeah, but with the other book that I'm working on with the co-writer, I'm writing the plot. So that plot is very detailed for her. I have to think through every beat as I go through. And I take an idea. If it's not good enough, I toss it out. And it's a lot of thinking through those ideas to get to the right one. So it's a pretty long, tedious process. And on the other hand, my co-writer is very fast. She'll take those ideas and then pump out the words, and she writes faster than I come up with ideas, actually.
So what do you think is the barrier? So you say mean, and I presume you mean as in nasty rather than meaner than average in any way. So what do you think your barrier is there?
Ask it again.
As far as what?
So you're having trouble sort of
main characters.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said mean characters.
Main characters.
Main, shit.
Well, main characters.
That's the American accent.
Well, and Lauren, you remember with a lot of the shows we do, how I always ask people what their favorite secondary character is. And that's because I have a theory, and I think a lot of people, you start writing the book with one character, but you fall in love with a different one. And you always have this one character that is a blast to write. They just do everything. They're like and then your main character almost feels like an obligation sometimes. That's my problem. Yeah. The
villains, I hear them very well. Like they have really distinct voices in my head when I'm writing it out. Or side characters, I'll have a character who does like a lot of malaprops. Like they use a lot of the wrong words, and it's kind of supposed to have humorous effect. Or I'll give an accent to a character, and it just really colors them, and it kind of comes out. But my main character, for whatever reason, in the one book I'm writing, I struggle to figure out who she is. And
the pressure on the main character.
The draft is done.
But
always have.
How can you turn that into a strength? And just something that immediately sort of springs to mind would potentially be in a lot of books, you want to have the reader somehow identifying with the main character. Is there any opportunity there to sort of not make them a blank canvas? That is completely wrong, but make them a skin for the reader to slip into. So kind of almost sort of like overlay their own personality traits. Yeah, you know where they're going, but in a story, it's a fixed path. But maybe there's something there to play with.
Well, it's a growing up story. She's figuring out who she is too, so that's part of the issue. Is she does a lot of changing, growing by the end of the story, hopefully. But it's funny to give the book to someone else and have them read it and get their feedback and see the stuff that they pick up on that you didn't even realize was there.
Is this the one I read part of?
Yeah.
Reading?
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is that sometimes with my characters, I'll have put more thought into the villain or the antagonist than I do the protagonist. For some reason, like with my Second Star series, my main character John, who's the protagonist, I have this idea in my head of what John is, but I don't, and I have this idea of why he does what he does, but that's it. It's a very small, minute thing. This is what he does. But for my villain, for Pan and for Hook, like I went through and I created this huge backstory, so I could empathize and sympathize with what they were doing. And so I kind of feel a little bit like on your side, Lauren, where you're talking about, filling out the side characters and the non-main characters better than your main character, because you're like, we'll learn about the main character as the story goes along, but I need to know about these side characters too. And
I wonder.
I mean, the simplest example of that is think of the film Aliens. Right, your heroine is Ripley, undoubtedly so. But
Yep.
who do you remember in Aliens? And there were so many strong characters in there, weren't there? I suggest each of us would have our individual little heroes or people we'll remember, but they're the side characters, aren't they? Each one plays a small part, and but they all feed into the main characters.
Well, they're all sprinters. They can sprint. It's fun. You go there and watch the sprint race. They come in, they flash on scene, they say some badass lines, and then they're out. Whereas your main character's got to slog through the whole story. And I also think that when we write main characters, maybe subconsciously we're worried that that's a reflection of ourselves. And when you write, you're thinking, am I bearing too much of myself? Is this me talking to this main character?
Yeah.
And then you shut that down, like, whoa. And it's easy to get, there's lots of ways to have resistance with that. That's one theory. I don't know.
It's a very good theory, because I have a couple side characters that are like way, way, way at the far end of the spectrum than I am. Like just the way I live my life, politically speaking, like sexually speaking, like all that orientation, like they're way over there. And then when I write my main characters, I'm so concerned about, are people going to read this main character and think that it's a reflection of me, which is odd because all the characters are made up. They all come from me. So
fiction.
why would I be?
Right.
Right.
Well, and also you spend a lot of time with your main character, so you get bored. So it's back to the 90-day thing. It's like the story. You get tired of the story. You spend the most time with the main characters, so eventually you get tired and you're like, and it's hard to feel original and fresh and new all the time with these characters, because we've just been writing on them for 90 of the 100 hours it took to write the book.
I think a good question that you should ask anytime a secondary character comes in is, if I were to make this person a main character in a next book, would anyone care about this character?
Yeah.
Of course, the answer is not always going to be, they would be a compelling main character, but like, have you created enough depth within them that they have their own lives, that they have a story to tell? At least that has to be a goal. Like, who are they and why are they there? Not every bartender has to have a story, but like maybe the way they communicate with your main character should at least give you some inclination of what kind of a person they are. Maybe even why they are running that bar, why, any of those particular questions. But like they can't be cardboard. There's nothing worse than cardboard secondary characters. The Expanse is a perfect example of that. Like the TV series was so much better than the books, because in the books, every single secondary character was thin as cardboard, and you didn't care about any of them at all. Then you shift over to the TV series and you're like, oh, I love every single one of these characters. They're phenomenal. Sorry, James, S.A., Corey, both of you, I love you. Give me blurbs from my books.
No, but you're absolutely right, because if you create a bartender that, let's just say, that's the only thing he knows, but say like a relative of his or a friend of his dies from alcohol poisoning, and that affects now how he tends bar or how he serves liquor, or when that one drunk comes up to the bar and he's stumbling over and he's whatever and he's asking for another bar and the bartender gets mad. That's the reason for him getting mad, is he knows like it's just triggering.
I'd like to see that bartender go the other way. He's going to just watch the whole world burn now and wants everybody to drink because he lost anyway.
It's like Star Wars. It feels like every single person who's ever appeared on screen has warranted their own little novel or short story at the very least somewhere on the right. I'm talking about like kind of the pre-apocalypse of the changed universe, of course. Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna have a quick first here on Keystroke Live. This has never happened before. It probably will never happen again. Come here. So Jamie has never been live on the show. This is my wife, Jamie. She just got back from a dinner, so that's the only reason she's awake now.
It's
at
true.
9 o'clock.
Why she looks way better than Josh. Obviously.
That's true. Can you host the show now? Because you look way better than I do.
No, I'm tired. I gotta go to bed.
Good times.
Proof of life. That's what we call proof of life.
That's right. Proof of life. That's right. She does exist.
It is real. It's not just something you made up and you tell us about.
Going on non-stock photos and getting pictures of Jamie for Facebook.
Yeah, those are all photoshopped back here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Bye. All right. Well, we've actually gone past the hour.
I know. I looked up. I was like, wow, that time flew.
Corvo says, "That's your wife. How did she choose you?" It's because I tricked her. It was a trick. I always tell people that I've got the trifecta. I've got the trophy wife, I've got a sugar mama, and I've got an anchor baby. And so it all like ties it all together.
Right? Hold on, wait, what is that last one? I'm not familiar with that term.
The anchor baby. You know, it's when man, it's when you're here illegally, but if you have a kid here, then the kid is a citizen.
Oh, that's so messed up.
Yeah, I know.
My congressman right now.
No, right him.
Weren't you like born in Germany or something, Josh?
Yeah, I'm like 1 1,032nd German.
Okay.
So
you're 1,024%. What is it? 1 in 120.
What 1,024? Yeah. 1 in 1,000.
We don't do math on KSM. KSM is not a math show.
That's right. Hey, but guess what, guys? Next Tuesday we're going to be in Vegas.
We are.
Oh,
so,
you lucky fellas.
Except for Ralph. Let's see. How do we do math? 1/5 of or 4/5 of the show is going to be in Vegas.
Yes.
From tonight's show.
Yeah, right. Rub it in.
80%.
Let me remind everyone that Chuck won't be there either, just so.
Chuck won't be there.
Yeah.
Hey,
Chuck and me. We'll be going and drinking whiskey somewhere, or whatever the hell I presume he drinks whiskey.
Chuck drinks a whole lot of whatever drops in his liquor card.
Tequila.
Yeah. Tequila.
I'd like to see Chuck on tequila tonight. That would be awesome.
So
Tijuana.
Next Monday we may or may not do a show. It depends on.
I know I'll be in Vegas Monday. So
yeah, it really depends on what's going on in Vegas. If the people that are not going to Vegas, aka Chuck and Ralph, want to do a show and we can tag in, then we'll talk about that. We'll figure it out.
We can crash in and be obnoxious and whatnot. What time's our flight on? Richard was asking.
I don't know. It comes in at like I think it's 3 something in Vegas. I'm not sure. I'll have to double check. But it's going to be a good time. We're going to have some giveaways at the meetup. Definitely some hats, possibly some shirts, maybe a couple hoodies, depending on. I've got already several spoken for everybody that donated to help kind of defray the cost of our little meetup. All of those people are getting shirts, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you, because that is very neat, and I appreciate that. And definitely generous. We have David Weber lined up to come on in November again. I think we're going to do kind of a roundtable with him. The last time he was on was the longest episode in show history at like 2 hours and something. So maybe we can top that a little bit this time.
With post show, it was almost 3.
Yeah. With the post show, it was damn near 3. So that'll be a good time.
Is that Gatorade episode, was it?
Yes. Yeah.
Important. We won't go there. That's a side reference that probably belongs in another show.
So everybody
Whatever
that
you
came
do,
and hang out with us-
don't accept a drink from Josh if you go around his house as well.
Not after that episode.
yeah, I've got little pills. So everybody that come and hang out with us tonight, thank you so much for being in the live chat. It was very lively. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the live chat. So if you're listening on the audio feed and you haven't checked us out live, youtube.com/c/keystroke medium, or you can just Google keystroke medium. We're the only one out there. If you're listening and you haven't checked us out on Facebook, come and join the group. We have a lot of good things going on in the group, a lot of good activity. And you can hang out with us.
Also heard from a reasonably verifiable scientific source that inviting people to watch and subscribe to our YouTube channel gives you a 10% greater chance of winning the lottery. So you should.
Oh, that's true. That's
science.
Scientifically
make sure
proven.
Yeah, so make sure you share and get some more people here. So
that's right. That's right. We always like a bigger party. So next week we may or may not have a show, but we will definitely be here the week after, and maybe we'll have something special coming Tuesday night. So everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will come back next time and we'll talk about some reading, maybe talk about some writing, and everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium. See ya.
We'll talk about